You know the exact afternoon I'm talking about, so I'll skip the setup. Sunscreen, hot pavement, a trace of chlorine floating over from somebody's above-ground pool a few houses away. And somehow, catching that combination at a gas station in July can still knock the wind out of you for a solid 4 seconds. Not because you were thinking about being a kid again. You weren't thinking about anything at all. Your card just got declined for the second time and you were mildly irritated. Then the smell hits, and for a few seconds, you're 11 years old, and the day hasn't asked anything of you yet. Then the receipt prints, and you're back to whatever age you actually are. That gap between those 4 seconds and the rest of your afternoon is basically the whole video. Somewhere between childhood and a job that emails you on weekends, summer quietly stopped being an event and became a temperature. It's still hot, the days are still absurdly long, the sun still hangs around until 9 p.m. like it's got nowhere else to be, but none of it announces itself anymore. Nobody's counting down. Nobody's making a paper chain for the last day of work and taping it above their desk. If June through August has started blending into one long Tuesday with a worse electricity bill, you're not imagining it, and you're definitely not alone. I asked around while putting this together, completely unscientific, maybe 10 people, and almost everyone landed on the same sentence. Summer used to feel like a season, and now it just feels like weather. So let's actually dig into why, because the real explanation isn't you got older and sadder. There's genuine psychology behind this. Memory researchers have spent decades trying to figure out why some stretches of life feel enormous in hindsight, while others basically disappear. One of the most solid findings in autobiographical memory research is called the reminiscence bump, studied extensively by psychologist David Rubin.
Colleagues. When older adults are asked to recall memories from across their entire lives, a disproportionate number cluster around adolescence and early adulthood, roughly ages 10 to 30, compared to any other stretch of life. Those years didn't hand you more actual days, they handed you more firsts. First kiss, first heartbreak, the first time you drove without an adult quietly panicking in the passenger seat, the first summer your parents just let you leave the house and figure things out on your own. Novel experiences get encoded far more richly by the brain than repeated ones. One new experience can take up more mental real estate than an entire month of the same commute on autopilot, which is an inconvenient thing to learn if you were hoping this was just about vitamin D. Think about it. You already know the pool. You already know the beach town, the barbecue, the group chat that spends 3 weeks debating a trip nobody fully commits to. Your brain has already filed all of it under seen this before. There's nothing new to grab onto. A kid's summer, on the other hand, is wall-to-wall novelty. A new kid moving in down the street, a bike route nobody's tried yet, a curfew that shifts depending on which parent you ask, entire friendships forming and falling apart in 11 days. Of course that summer felt like it lasted 4 months. It was doing 4 months' worth of psychological work. Even when an adult does manage to build something new into a summer, an actual trip, a real change of scenery, there's usually a shared spreadsheet involved and a group text negotiating dates across 3 schedules. By the time everyone agrees on an Airbnb, most of the anticipation has curdled into logistics. Nobody in a kid's summer had to coordinate anything with anyone. The whole neighborhood just showed up outside, and that was the plan. Summer used to have a hard edge to it. A bell rang, someone handed you a card, you dumped your locker into a garbage bag.
There was this specific, almost physical feeling of a door swinging open. 10 unscheduled weeks stretching out ahead of you, like they actually belonged to you. That structure was doing real work. Anticipation isn't just a nice feeling that shows up before good things happen. It's part of how your brain decides what deserves to be remembered as significant in the first place. A season with a starting gun feels completely different from a season that just leaks into existence unannounced. And there's something almost unfair buried in here too. When you were 8, you had no idea summer was finite. That awareness shows up much later, usually right around the time you start doing quiet math about how many more summers you probably get with your parents, or before your own kids stop wanting to spend theirs with you. You already know exactly how fast 12 weeks evaporates. 8-year-old you never had to carry that math around. It's its own tax on the season, and it has nothing to do with memory at all. Adult summer doesn't get a starting gun. For most working adults, the entire transition from spring to summer is a slightly warmer walk to get coffee, and maybe someone in the office finally turning the AC down. No bell, no garbage bag full of locker junk, no ceremony of any kind. Just a mild change in what you're sweating through on your commute. There's also a simpler, almost mathematical piece that psychologists have pointed out for over a century. A single summer when you're 8 is an enormous fraction of the entire life you've lived so far. That same 3 months at 35 is a tiny sliver of a much bigger pile of years. The actual length hasn't changed. Your ruler has. And look, I'm not saying quit your job and reenact the last day of 6th grade, hurling your laptop off a bus like it's a math binder you'll never open again, though I get the appeal. What I am saying is that the flatness you're feeling isn't a character flaw. It's not proof
You've become boring, or somehow immune to nice weather now that you have a mortgage. Your brain is doing exactly what brains are built to do. It's just operating inside a life that stopped handing it new material to work with. There's also the fairly modern habit of watching everyone else's summer scroll by in real time. Trips you weren't invited to, bonfires that look better lit than yours ever did. A version of July that seems to be happening to literally everyone except you. Almost none of what you're scrolling past is the whole story, but that doesn't make the comparison in your head any easier to ignore. If you want even a sliver of that old feeling back, the research points somewhere fairly doable. Not a big vacation, not a dramatic life overhaul, just real novelty, placed on purpose into a schedule your brain has gotten a little too comfortable with. Maybe that's a route you've never walked before, a real conversation with someone outside your usual handful of people, or trying one physical thing badly in front of other humans for the first time in years. Something that forces your attention to actually show up instead of running on autopilot. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be new, because new is the ingredient that actually gets remembered. The feeling that summer shrank probably has less to do with your life getting smaller and more to do with it getting repetitive, which, if you think about it honestly, is a considerably more fixable problem than the alternative. That kid smelling sunscreen at the gas pump wasn't necessarily happier than you are right now. He just hadn't done any of it yet. Everything ahead of him still counted as a first. You've already met most of your days, which means the ones you haven't met yet are still sitting there, completely unclaimed, waiting on you to do something you've never actually done before. Before you go, if summer nostalgia hits differently for you because your childhood wasn't actually
Simple. If you had to grow up too fast or felt invisible in your own house, that's worth looking at. Links in the description if you want to go deeper.